Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Here we go. I'm back with another broadcast, Ahmadiyya Fact Check blog. You know what it is. All my programs are live. Today we're going to be talking about the history of Ahmadiyya in Mauritius. Um, I've already written it. I've done the research. This is an interesting one. So I'm just going to share my screen and explain what Mauritius is, how Qadianism infiltrated, just the basic history. So let me just share the screen here, and then we're just going to go ahead and start. So here we go. Share the screen. There we go. So okay, Mauritius, as you see, I'm on Google Maps. You'd have to catch a train from the Punjab and come down here to Sri Lanka, and from Sri Lanka, it was like a port. There's a place called Slave Island. Feel free to check that out. Colombo, that's where it went down. So from there, the trade winds. All you need is a sailboat, proper sailing technology, know-how, and the monsoon winds will take you right down to the Maldives, to the Indian Ocean Territory, to the Seychelles, and then down here to Mauritius. Now, what's interesting about Mauritius is that it was uninhabited, or we're told it's uninhabited. It probably was, because Madagascar was also uninhabited, probably until the Muslims showed up. That's why a lot of the Muslims are in the north. Um, but it was really the Portuguese who, because of they learned how to sail into the wind, Bernoulli's principle, and etc. The Portuguese were able to get around the Horn of Africa. The trade winds here take you straight across, so it was hard to get through. But the Portuguese were able to get through. That they came all the way around, found Madagascar, refound Madagascar. Muslims had already found it, and you see Mayotte here too. The Qadianis have a temple on Mayotte also, and then from Madagascar you get to Mauritius. There's some other small islands way out here that you can make a military base on, and then from here, no one really went from here to Australia. They normally go up and then come back around because that's a straightaway. So that's where it is, Mauritius. Um, it's basically owned by the French. It's a puppet government. These people are not free. They've had dictators. The French, the British. Well, actually, the French and the British fought over Mauritius like they did over many colonies, and the British ended up gaining control. And in comes the Ahmadiyya movement. So now it starts here. The history of the Ahmadiyya movement in Mauritius. So remember, the British government allowed the review of religions to get circulation all throughout their empire, whether it was in Nigeria, Mauritius, wherever they wanted it, wherever they needed it, they gave the review of religion circulation. That's like having a website and letting it be live in your country, or not letting it be live in your country. So the British allowed it. So you'll see after World War I, World War II, the different um, thrusts of the Qadiani Ahmadis going around. You'll also see the Lahori Ahmadis. And remember, when it came to the Fiji Islands, the Lahori Ahmadis got there first. So, so here we go. And this is how it started in Mauritius. So Mauritius is an island of immigrants. The British and the French brought in people from Malaysia, China, a lot from India, some Africa, etc., Indonesia, etc., to work. So that's the other reason why they don't kill everyone. The British wanted to kill everyone, all the indigenous, but they need the indigenous, or they needed people to work the fields. There's no robots, so that's the number one reason they didn't kill everyone. The Christian Portuguese and the Spanish were the wildest people. They were killing everyone, and well, as we know in Islam, you can't do that. So here we go. Some guy named Mr. Nuruya. Um, Apparently, he took bath in 1913. Sent in a form. Did he know what Ahmadiyyat was? Probably not. Most of these guys didn't. I mean, how could you get? It would almost be impossible to learn everything like overnight or in a year. It would take 5 to 10 years to do a proper research on Ahmadiyya, and these guys weren't doing it. So he was reading the Review of Religions, and then he started his own magazine called The Islamist in 1907. And apparently he started putting pro Qadiani Amni stuff in that newspaper. So that's sort of how it started. And this is a similar story to Australia. They knew a guy in Australia who became an honorary missionary, Musa Han. He probably didn't even know what Ahmadiyya was, didn't even die in Ahmadi. But he thought it was something the British wanted, so maybe you get a better job or get perks from the British government. The British government wants people to join. So if you join, you're going to get a perk, a job, and etc. So he starts sending letters to Qadian. There's some correspondence, and they send a guy named Hafiz Ghulam Muhammad. And who is this guy? Well, let me show you. And I'm still sharing the screen. Okay. Who is Hafiz Ghulam Muhammad? They say he had a bachelor's degree. He was a pupil of Nuruddin. So this is interesting. This guy comes out of nowhere. We had where was he qualified? They say he went to the Aligarh. And I'll tell you what, the British government, that's how they wanted Maulvis to be certified, was through Aligarh. And a lot of the Qadiani Ahmadis went there. Because if you come out of Aligarh, that's not Islam. That's rationalism. That's towards atheism. So the British government controlled Islam all throughout their empire thoroughly, thoroughly, no resistance. There were people who resisted who would end up being criminals. In fact, in the Punjab, there were probably half the population were not cooperating, and they were treated terribly by the British and people who were working with the British. So check this guy out, Hafiz Ghulam Muhammad, and they say he knew Hebrew. He knew Hebrew. He was a scholar of Hebrew. How? It's impossible. Who taught him? And there's another guy who's also a pupil of Nuruddin, Muftari Muhammad Sadiq. They said he was the same thing. So this is where the Qadianis boast, incorrectly boast, and lie about their accomplishments. They even called Mirza Bashir Ahmad the MA. He probably didn't even go to college. It's all made up. It's all a lie. They called Mirza Nasir Ahmad the Hafiz. So the list is endless. And let me just check the backstage, see who's here real quick. Okay, got one comment. All right. So, all right, let me go back to sharing the screen. Okay, so this guy gets sent to Mauritius, and February 1915, page 80. Check it out. He stops in Sri Lanka. So in Sri Lanka, and remember, they can't read Urdu in Sri Lanka. They could probably understand it, but so they can't read MGA's books. None of them are in Tamil. I think in Sri Lanka it's Tamil. So this guy shows up to Sri Lanka, Slave Island, Colombo, in that general area, and they claim he got 30 converts. How? We don't know. Maybe it was poor people and they wanted to appease the British and they were going to get something out of it. Who knows? Same thing happened in Israel, in Kabir. Why did this village convert? Right? Financial. It's all financial. They didn't do the research. You know what I mean? We're not saying, let's not believe that people did the work, the homework. Who really wants to do the homework? So okay. So then he shows up on May 27th, 1915. He starts traveling towards Mauritius. He gets there. I guess there's a train on the island. He goes to all 16 Muslim mosques. He ends up at the Rose Hill Sunni Masjid, which you can still find this today. I think I got it pulled up. Yeah, they got a Facebook page and all that. The Rose Hill Sunni Mosque. Apparently, one of the organizers of the local Muslim community, they say he converted to Qadianism. Well, so what? That masjid, the Rose Hill Sunni Masjid, is for the local Muslim community. If one person converts who's in charge or part of the committee, that doesn't mean the entire masjid becomes an Ahmadi. Well, this is what the Ahmadiyya movement did. They claimed persecution, but they went out into the world and took over mosques. In Nigeria, they did it for sure. And now we have another case in Mauritius, which ended up in this big court case. I'll explain in just a sec. So the Ahmadiyya movement cries persecution, but they've been taking over mosques for years. Even in Pakistan, when they moved to Pakistan, they won't tell you, but they probably took over 50 to 60 mosques. And there's cases, I think, in Sahiwal, in other places, where they took a mosque in 1948, 1950, and Muslims have been arguing with them. Why did you take our mosque? This is ours. Stop. You took the land and the building. This is incorrect. You know, so this is what they do. So he starts leading the prayer at this masjid separately. There's two congregations now. It's causing a scene, and World War One is going on. And remember, they let this guy travel from a military port during World War One. The British had extra seats. That's hard to believe. Why are the British allowing him to move around during World War One? And you know, one of the other ships that took a Qadiani Amdi to London, Sayal, the ship he was on was torpedoed in like 1918. It was a Japanese ship. So, and that also proves how the British created Japan. The British in America created Japan as a puppet government, and it spiraled out of control and created a bigger problem. So, so anyhow, so by late 1916, the Muslims got kicked out of their own masjids. How strange is this? They got kicked out and had to go pray somewhere else. So then they start. Muslims are mad. Like, what happened here? The British government starts deporting all Muslims, Muslim imams. There were a few Muslim imams who got deported, and they were threatening other Muslims. You want to object to the Ahmadiyya movement? We're going to deport you back to India. Don't do it. So, in by the time the war is over, September 1918, um, the Muslims they organized, and because during the war, you know, nothing was going to happen, and they lodged a case in the Supreme Court. It started February 26, 1919, and ended November 1920. And there was a little break because of the Spanish flu. But the result of the court case, and I got it all for you. The result was the Ahmadis had to give the masjid back. So Muslims got their masjid back, but the Ahmadiyya movement got something too. Remember, the British is not gonna do them dirty like that. They're gonna take care of the Ahmadiyya movement. So the British said, okay, we'll give you free land and we'll build your temple for you. And that's probably what happened to Dar es Salaam in Rose Hill. They say it was built in 1923. I could not find any corroborating evidence of when it was built. For sure, it was built by 1946. So by 2021, there's barely 500 Qadiani Ahmadis on the whole island and one Ahmadi employee. And they're also in Mayotte, I don't know. It's a nearby island. So from Mauritius, they manage Mayotte, Madagascar, and their other little projects in Eastern Africa. Um, and there's a splinter group, right? The funny splinter group by Zafrullah Domun. Um, and he has like an entry where he talks about one of their employees that showed up. So I estimate 500 Qadiani Ahmadis on the whole island as of 2021. In 1958, they were claiming to have 1,000, and I got the government reports to prove it. So then I got so right now a guy named Mujib Ahmed is the missionary in charge. He moves around, he goes to jalsas, etc. Here's the list of the mullahs and the years. This is what I was able to track. This guy was there a long time, um, and I'll talk about these two shortly. One of the guys died on the island. Is that interesting? And they don't say how he died. How did this guy die in 1923? Please tell us. Was he killed because he tried to fight someone? And this is right around the time of that mosque case. So it's a mystery. So then another guy shows up. He stayed for 21 years, et cetera, et cetera. So the current president is this guy, Musa Tauju. All right. And then here's the look, they got a bunch of temples, but these are small little 40 capacity temples. But that's still a lot for a small island where there's not even that many Qadiani Ahmadis on the island. So these are just property business land. They own this land, they can sell it and make money. So then I have the advanced year by year. If you want to go deeper into Mauritius, Hafiz Ghulam Muhammad, I tracked his movements. 1915, 1916. It goes to 1917, 1918. This is basically the most detailed entry on the history of Ahmadiyya in Mauritius on the internet. The Ahmadiyya movement spent 2,500 rupees on this court case that they lost. Where'd they get this money from? right? Again, where's the money coming from? No one knows, but they seem to always have a lot of money, right? We know it came from the British. And then here's the Rose Hill Mosque situation. Here's the Ahmadis crying about it in 1920. But they didn't admit that they lost the case. They again, there's no accountability. Here's another article I found in 1921. Ahmadis in Mauritius. Um, et cetera, et cetera. And then here's a breakdown of the island. Also, Rodriguez Island is a part of it. 1922 uh, talks about the work that these guys are doing. 1923, the famous Dar es Salaam is built around this era. This is per Ahmadiyya sources. Can't find corroborating evidence. 1926, Review of Religions. Hafiz, this is the guy that they sent, who they said was a master of Hebrew, which is very odd. Here's his photo. It appeared in 1926 edition of the Review of Religions. The third guy that showed up, Jamal Ahmed, was he a Hafiz? Probably not. They probably lied about it. 1944, another temple goes up. And then 1949, here's another piece. Here's another entry. I don't even remember what this one is, honestly. I got to remember. I think the Khalifa might have talked about Ahmadiyya in Mauritius. And then 1950s, the Mauritius Jamaat summarized a book called Victory of Khilafat. In the foreword is like the brief history of Ahmadiyya in Mauritius. Check that out. And then in the 1950s, there was a lot of problems. The Ahmadiyya community had a problem with the Murabbis that showed up. I showed you guys that full list. One of the Murabbis, he ended up quitting. And there was a lot of problems. So who comes and saves the day? Zafrullah Khan. He's working at the International Court of Justice. He just gets on the phone and says, told the British government to intervene. I got the full report posted right here. This is a secret government report that me and my friends found. I won't tell you who and etc. But I got the full report. Okay, so let's go back. And Zafrullah Khan fixed it, but this damaged the Ahmadiyya community for years and years and years. In the next year, another temple goes up. In 1971, this guy shows up, Sadiq Ahmed Manavar, and he was the missionary in charge for like 30, 40 years. Mirza Wasim Ahmed, a grandson of Mirza Ghulam Ahmed, shows up. So I think they were getting missionaries from India and not Pakistan. I'm not sure. In Israel, it's like that. The Ahmadiyya movement sends missionaries from India, not Pakistan, because Israel won't allow it. So why does Mirza Wasim Ahmed show up? He's in charge of Qadian. Why is he showing up? But he showed up and he laid the foundation stone for another temple. In 1988, Mirza Tahir Ahmed visited. 1993, he visits again. 1995, from here they start going to Madagascar, and the guy I showed you, Sadiq Ahmed Manavar, he gets them into Madagascar, which is French. Madagascar is a puppet government of the French. The number one export of vanilla. The French have made millions off vanilla out of Madagascar, and the people live poor. If you ever watch videos, Madagascar is one of the poorest countries in the world. So in 1998, the Emir and missionary in charge in the UK, they got nothing else to do. For Jalsa, Ahmadis are paying for these people to travel for free. All right. In 2005, Mirza Masroor Ahmad visited. 2011, I found a video of that. One of their pioneer missionaries giving a speech. In 2016, this guy's the president, and that is pretty much the history of Ahmadiyya in Mauritius. So let's see what's going on back here. Walaikum salam. I just wanted to make a quick video, guys. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it. The history of Ahmadiyya in Mauritius. Thanks for tuning in. The video will be posted on the blog, and peace out.